Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this installment of the Renegade of Wrestling. I am your host, J.J. Williams. Thank you for all the positive feedback on the Halloween episode that me and Statboy did. Thank you for all the positive feedback that we got on Jeff and Jade's episode. All the negative comments we take with stride. Yes, Halloween movies have nothing to do with wrestling, but you know what? It was freaking Halloween. Deal with it. I'm back, and I'm going to bring you a little bit of indie wrestling information, news results. I'm going to bring you a little bit of mainstream news results. I know, right? It's a shock. First thing I want to talk about is the Long Beach Comic-Con, Mach 1 Wrestling's Wrathacon 3. Awesome show from start to finish. Couple surprises. I'm not going to go through every match on the card, obviously, because that'll take forever. But I do want to touch on, real quickly, the #1 contendership to the Mach 1 tag titles was established. We had Leo Blaze and Josh Rose defeat Dynamico and Todd Chandler, Anchors Away, and Ridiculously Big to become the #1 contenders to the Tag Team Championship. You also had Jarek Matthews defeat Kyle Webb to retain his Mach 1 Heavyweight Championship. And then the post-match beatdown, you had Big Nasty Eric Watts finally do his heel turn that we at Mach 1 have been waiting for a minute to see happen. We all thought it was going to happen a couple months ago at Center City Slam 2, but they kept us waiting for it a little bit more, and it ended up being a big payoff as we saw. Just tossed my thing. Kyle Webb, Sean Ricker, and Eric Watts get beaten by Nick Madrid, Jarek Matthews, and Willie Mack in a special bonus main event match. Really good stuff. That brings me, if you will, no, I'm not completely stripping y'all. You'll have to adjust your TV sets. Bam! The outfit I wore for Halloween night. Wiggly, 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 whack. Y'all know where that's from. Battleground Pro Wrestling's Pinky's Playhouse. This show was either going to be the greatest show ever conceived, or it was going to be a clusterfuck from start to finish. And I definitely have got to say I think it was both. Battleground Pro Wrestling pulled no punches, twists, turns, surprises, costumes, the whole nine. This I am going to go through more or less match for match because there was so much special stuff happening since it was their Halloween show that I have to touch on it all. You had Pinky's Wheel of Nightmares, which had a bunch of different choices on it. Could kind of compare it to a Raw Roulette, but it was gimmicks. And we saw Sub-Zero, portrayed by Jeremy Yeager, defeat Kitty Cat, portrayed by Thunder Kitty. Awesome match. Personally, I think Thunder Kitty should have whooped that ass, but be that as it may, Sub-Zero did the whole freeze uppercut combination like in the video games to defeat Thunder Kitty in a very fun match. Then you had Spider-Man, portrayed by our homeboy Chris Cadillac, defeating a Ninja Turtle, portrayed by Ryan Kidd. Actually, there was no defeat. That contest actually went to a no contest because the Derevko brothers, Alexis, who was portraying the Big Boss Man, and Sasha, who was portraying Prawn Cena, with crab fins and everything, lobster fins going, you can't see me. Coming out to basic thugonomics of all things too. The Big Boss Man knockoff was coming out to the old school Boss Man Hard Time song, so definitely had us marking out for the heels with that right there, because that's back when we actually liked those characters. Then you had Diesel, portrayed by Sheik Khan Abadi, defeating Death the Rhodes, Levi Shapiro, one half of Circumsexy. again, just another really fun, no real repercussions or ramifications, just 3 really good comedy, gimmicky matches. Then you got into the serious shit. And the serious shit was a tag team gauntlet match for the Battleground straps, which were currently being held by the Fugitives. The Fugitives were one of the first 2 teams into the ring, and they defeated the Revolution. Then the Suburban Commandos came out and defeated the Fugitives, so right there we already had new tag team champions. It was just a matter of how long were the Commandos going to hold on to it, and who was going to end up at the end of the night as the last team standing. The brothers Derevko, who I talked about earlier, Prawn, Cena, and Bossman, came out, and they got beat by the Commandos. Then here came Circumsexy. Circumsexy was able to knock off the Commandos thanks to a little bit of help from the Derevko brothers. Black Knights came in, my boys, my team, Sean and Sam. They knocked off Circumsexy, but ultimately, at the end of the night, they fell short to the Silverheart Radicals. Your new Battleground Tag Team Champions are the Silverheart Radicals, the team of Rey Rosas and Lucha Machine. Now, of course, this match was not without its costumes in of itself. Levi Shapiro, who had played Dusty earlier in the night, was Spike Dudley in this match. His tag team partner, the Riv, was Undertaker. Sean Black from the Black Knights was dressed up like Dr. Cliff Huxtable. Lucha Machine was Matt Hardy version 1, complete with the dial-up music and everything. And then Rey Rosas was Joey Chaos, complete with his 5-to-1 entrance theme. You're probably seeing the smile on my face and wondering what the hell has got me laughing so much. When these matches get put on YouTube, I'm going to have to share them with you, because this show was so fun. I actually talked to one of the founders of the company, the guys that run it, and said, dude, you really need to consider putting this on DVD. It was just too much fun. Went to intermission, and Spider-Man and the Ninja Turtle teamed up to fight Anchors Away in a losing effort. That kind of sucked. But it is what it is. Then, the only other title match, and it wasn't even for the Battleground Championship, the West Coast Wrestling Company Heavyweight Championship was on the line, as champion Joey Ryan defended successfully against Vintage Dragon. I'd never seen Vintage Dragon before, but I was definitely impressed by some of the stuff that he offered. Joey, of course, is a SoCal legend. Anybody out here in SoCal, hell, worldwide, should know who Joey Ryan is, because he's been Ring of Honor, NWA Tag Team Champion with Machine Gun Anderson, WWE Jobber, you name it, he's been there. And then your main event was a Survivor Series style elimination match with Team Babyface versus Team Heel. Team Babyface was Mikey Callahan, Extreme Loco, The Unknown Soldier, and Tito Escondido, taking on the Battleground Heavyweight Champion Rico Dynamite, Tank Alvarez, Pinky, and Robbie Phoenix. This match was one of the few times that me or Jeff can remember where Team Babyface just dominated the entire elimination match. Like the last one I think that I can remember, and Statboy, if you're watching, leave this on a comment if I'm wrong. Other people out there in internet land, the YouTube wrestling community, leave me a message if I'm wrong on this. The last time I can remember Team Babyface completely surviving against Team Heel was the Survivor Series where DX teamed up with the Hardys and CM Punk. I don't remember what year that is. I think it was 06 or 07. But that's the last time I can remember it happening. And as with the other matches, Tank Alvarado was dressed as Earthquake. Tito Escondido was looking like Tom Cruise straight out of Risky Business. Extreme Loco was Road Warrior Loco. And then our boy, quite possibly the best big man in indie wrestling right now, Mikey Callahan, was Bam Bam Mikey. That brings me to the end of my independent wrestling for right now. Next up on the agenda, I'm going to talk a little bit about Monday Night Raw. Because the Muppets took over Raw. And anybody that knows me out there, like truly knows me, the real me, not the guy you see on your little YouTube screens every week. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a huge Muppet mark. I'm a Muppet mark almost as much as Hornswoggle, except I don't have Muppet tattoos. But I did give Hornswoggle a pair of Muppet shoelaces this past year at SummerSlam Access that I was hoping he was going to wear in his Air Swags, but alas, they were not in there when he was finally shown backstage. I like the way Rock teased that he wasn't, but then did agree to team with John Cena. I think the way he played that was good, because most of us don't want to see The Rock team with John Cena. I don't have as much hatred for The Rock as Jeff does, but I do think at the end of the day he's taking a payday away from CM Punk, from Triple H, from any other guy that's on the roster in a babyface role that could be used in that match. Hell, you got John Morrison jobbing his ass off, teamed with Cena overseas this week in a match against Miz and R-Truth, where Mick Foley came out and refereed it in Dublin, Ireland. Why not make that the match at Survivor Series? You had Alberto Del Rio send Ricardo Rodriguez in to get Punk disqualified against his match with Mark Henry, where the stipulation was if Punk won, he'd get a shot at Alberto. Thought that was a little bit cheap, because your World Heavyweight Champion had to win via disqualification. I mean, he is the world's strongest man. I thought that just made the champion look really weak. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know. And then we got our first Muppet segment. Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy talking with Vicky Guerrero and Jack Swagger, and then Santino Marella comes in. Very funny bit in my opinion. I think it could have done without the Santino part of it. Just had it be Kermit and Piggy and Vicky and Swagger, but it was funny, it was entertaining. And I've gotten through a very reliable source that the Disney Corporation had their hands all in the cookie jar in Raw because the Muppets is their intellectual property. So that is actually the reason why the Michael Cole Challenge didn't happen. Is because they didn't want that to happen on a show that Disney and the Muppets were involved in. So they stretched some of the Muppet segments out, pushed that to the back burner. And you had a Divas Battle Royal. Is it just me, or did Kelly look like she emailed Trish Stratus, borrowed her ring gear from 2003, and added a pirate sword to it, to be a pirate? I didn't see a pirate. I saw Trish Stratus. Everybody in this house in Casa de 18 saw Kelly trying to be Trish Stratus. Then you had Caitlyn as Dog the Bounty Hunter. That was funny. You had AJ as Katana from Mortal Kombat. That was funny. You had the Bellas as Mario and Luigi. That was funny. Is it just me, or did all the heel costumes seem like the best ones? And then, of course, Eve had to go and win. get her shot at Beth, probably at Survivor Series again. Does anybody really care about Eve right now? I know there's a lot of Eve fans out there. You know, the same people that kiss their dog tags and salute are probably also Eve fans. But I would much rather see Beth and Natty winning on a regular basis instead of, once again, WWE making them look weak by having Natalya job week in and week out to Alicia Fox, you know, or somebody along those lines. They're totally killing the Sisters of Salvation gimmick that they're trying to run with by constantly making your champions look weak. And WWE is doing this with all their champions right now. It's really starting to aggravate me. You got Randy Orton beating Cody Rhodes. Randy Orton beating Dolph Ziggler. You've got Mark Henry getting a DQ victory. You had Alberto Del Rio get knocked out later on in the night by the Big Show. You've got one half of your tag team champions getting suspended for a wellness violation. And then you've got your Divas champion and her sidekick getting jobbed out on a regular basis. Whatever happened to strong champions? Maybe that's something Jeff and Jade can do on RSI, is strong champions. After the Battle Royal, we had a Muppet Labs presentation with Dr. Bunsen, Honeydew, and Beaker. And although the segment with Beaker didn't quite go the way I had envisioned it, Sheamus was involved nonetheless. Talking to Beaker as if they were family. Telling him to tell Aunt Teresa that he sends his well wishes. That was funnier than shit. Especially since my girl's name is Teresa. We were cracking up over here. I couldn't believe that all the names out there that could have been pulled out of Sheamus's arse, he pulled Teresa. And then you had Wade Barrett and Cody Rhodes defeat Air Boom, with Evan Bourne getting pinned by a wasteland from Barrett. Again, making your champions look weak. Now granted, hindsight 2020, this was probably done because of the suspension. But if this was done because of the suspension, why weren't the belts on the line? Just a little food for thought there. Then you had a Statler and Waldorf segment, which we all thought they were going to do commentary during the Cole JR match. But true to Statler and Waldorf form, they were up in the balcony watching down upon everybody. And then we cut to John Laurinaitis and CM Punk backstage. Now, unfortunately, John Laurinaitis could not be in the studio with us tonight. I think he's still overseas in Europe trying to make sure that everything goes smooth over there. Which brings us to Alberto and Big Show, and I already touched on that. Big Show KOing Alberto, the WWE Champion, making him look weak. So your contenders now look really strong. But your champions look horrible. And then Punk comes out and gets his match, because in that Punk Laurinaitis segment, Laurinaitis had told Punk that if you can get Alberto to agree, you've got your match. So an old move came back into the forefront that I like to call the Anaconda Vice, and I was kind of looking forward to seeing that. As a matter of fact, earlier in the night against Henry, I had suggested to Jeff that Punk use the Vice to make Mark Henry tap out. Now, while that didn't happen, it still came back on the same show. So, maybe a little bit of foreshadowing. Maybe you should call me Renegade Adamus or something, since I was able to foresee the future. Then we cut backstage to another Muppet segment with Fozzie, my favorite, Gonzo the Great, Vicky Swagger, and this time Dolph joins in the festivities, where Gonzo gets stretched worse than a Stu Hart victim. I don't even know where to go with some of these here, because everything that followed that was just kind of weak to me, for the most part. You had Animal as the guest timekeeper, because he's the drummer, so he was ringing the bell. For Swagger with Vicky against Santino. And Beaker finally being able to deliver the concoction that Dr. Bunsen Honeydew made to Santino, which allowed Santino to get the victory over the former World Heavyweight Champion, Jack Swagger. And then you had Ryder beat Dolph not once, but twice. Since the first time there was a rope break that didn't go noticed. So once again, your US champion's getting pinned on TV. It's like, I love the fact that the Muppets were a part of this Raw, but your champions looked like garbage on TV this week. Just throwing that out there, WWE. Vince, Laurinaitis, Trips, whichever one of y'all is in charge of that, Michael Hayes, whoever it is. Seriously? Every champion pretty much lost. Beth didn't wrestle and Cody's team won, but Cody didn't get the pin. Then we found out that Kevin Nash was rehired by John Laurinaitis. They're speculating online that due to the 6 weeks Triple H is going to be out, the Nash Triple H meeting will finally take place at TLC. Don't want to see their two decrepit old asses in a ladder match. I really don't want to see Kevin Nash botch another powerbomb on Trips through a table. So are we going to have a chair match between the two of these? Really? How about we have a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match? Hey, wrong company, sorry. Then we had John Morrison backstage flirting with Miss Piggy. Morrison not wanting any of Piggy's advances, so he puts Hornswoggle in. Hornswoggle, of course, shows off his Muppet tattoos, which Piggy kind of coos at. Piggy seemed about as interested in the Muppet tattoos as Hornswoggle did at the laces I gave him at SummerSlam. And then Kermit comes in, and then in the best interaction with the Muppet all night, Cody Rhodes comes in and paper bags Kermit. Again, I love the Muppets, but paper bag on Kermit the Frog was kind of funny. Then you had Miz versus John Cena, where John Cena, of course, despite the interference by Ghostface, R-Truth, still manages to beat The Miz because he is Super Cena. And despite what the WWE thinks, John Cena beating The Miz is not Statboy approved. However, this show is. I'm the Renegade of Wrestling, JJ Williams. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.